Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Track with Daniel Blair, presented by Cooper Tires. I'm Daniel Blair. Thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited to talk to Weston Peick. He's a rider that I admire, I respect. His route from amateur racing to pro is different than most. He's got an inspiring story. I look forward to talking about that right now. But I want to kick things off by just welcoming Weston to the show. Weston, how's it going? What's going on this summer? What are you getting yourself into these days?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show to start with. But yeah, so far, man, my summer's been interesting with obviously retiring first and moving on to the next chapter of life, and then being able to utilize my time now with WPS and Fly and all the brands that they have. So I've been busy, with them doing ride days and events. I kind of have opportunities to kind of bounce around and do what I want with the company and kind of help out and push some brands that, that I think would be utilize me, which is right now I'm doing a lot of like the Harley stuff with them and, which is Hard Drive, Highway 21 and, all the brands of that. So it's been an awesome time, to be able to kind of transition into something that, that I've had a passion for, which is, riding a motorcycle, Harleys, dirt bikes. So there's a lot of things that I can kind of, stick around and still do and, and have a good time doing that.
So if Fly does a second version of the Top Gun video, will you be on the Harley and they'll take JT off of it?
Oh, I will. Yeah. Yeah. It'll be taking them off the road.
Right on, man. Well, glad to hear you're doing well. I know you're in Boise right now working on stuff, but have you been traveling a lot or you been sitting in one spot for a while? The last 6 months or so, what you been doing?
Yeah, so kind of obviously COVID kind of wrecked a bunch of stuff, but I've been in Cali most of the time. We've had a couple ride days here and there. I've been flying up to Boise, doing a couple shoots. They come down to Cali, we shot some commercials for outdoor ads. But the biggest thing, the most thing that takes up my time right now is in obviously California. I opened a furniture business last year in May. So I'm kind of running that, managing that. Very different. Don't ask me why I got into it, but but no, so I'm, we're open 7 days a week. It's full retail. So I have my head spinning daily with that business and, just trying to get product with COVID. It's been a nightmare just like anything else. It's like, I have customers that have been waiting, 3 or 4 months, just to get what they want. So it's just a headache, with trying to get products. So when I'm in Cali, that's like my 100% is running my business. And, then when I can get out of the office like I am now and in Boise, it helps just so I can clear my head and get out of that atmosphere. But and even at that, like, with Hard Drive and stuff, which is WPS brand, they allowed me to, I kind of brought it to them back in January. I was talking to Terry at Supercross and I was like, hey, let's build a bike for Sturgis. You know what I mean? Like, let's build a brand, a Harley with, mostly Hard Drive parts and other companies that, distribute for them and sell them their products. So that's kind of what I did. I took off from there and it was about 4 or 5 month build. I bought a bike from Oregon through Scott up at Motorsport Hillsboro. He shipped me the bike down and then I kind of took off from there. So I've had my hands busy building Harleys, trying to ride my dirt bike, shoot videos and films and all that stuff with Fly and everything. So just trying to stay busy. Like I said, you race motorcycles for 12 years professionally and then you stop and you're just like, what do I do with my time? You know what I mean?
Right.
You can only sit at home for so long and then you're sitting there just spending too much money on stupid crap that you don't need. And one of those things where it's like, I had to find a place, which was obviously, starting a business takes up my time. And then, I'm, telling the guys up at Fly that I'm like, hey, I need something to do. Like, let's something, give me something to do so we can stay busy here. So,
dude, it's the post dirt bike thing, right? I think we're so used to going 1,000 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. It doesn't shut off like that. We got to fill every hour. I'm the same way. So I can imagine what you're getting into right now because you're fresh off the career. Any comments or any thoughts about that? I know it's not the typical ending of a career. It's a hard ending for you. Are you okay with that? I got to imagine that still bums you out a little bit because it wasn't that long ago, but how's that transition, getting out of being a racer and getting into this next chapter?
Yeah, it's obviously a bummer. Like I say, just being injured the way that I got injured, it's just not a way that you want to end your career is by injury and something that you have no control over, which is, nerve damage in my eye, obviously is my issue, why I didn't race. But, then I look back at it and at the end of the day, it's like, I built a really good, career. I built a good start, good ending. I started off as a privateer. struggle, you know, grind for 5-6 years straight, you know, buying my own stuff with the help of other people. And then, you know, turning pro, and then I was able to keep a factory ride for 5 years, you know, also with JGR. And, you know, that was awesome. You know what I mean? I couldn't ask for a better career. And, you know, JGR supported me significantly through my ups and downs. And, you know, they always trusted in me and my effort. The biggest thing for me was effort. You know, I showed them 110%. I crashed. I raced when I was hurt. I never gave up. You know, if I was 20th place, I'd be racing my hardest till the end. And that, you know, that's what kind of, I think, gave them that look for me to, you know, want to keep me on board and keep pushing. Because I was always there. I was in there week in, week out, racing hurt, like I said. And, you know, I never give up attitude, you know, from start to finish. And, you know, I think that's what, you know, they appreciated, you know, from me. And, but, you know, other than that, you know, the retirement is, I looked at it in two ways. It's like, I could have raced for another 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? So it's like, is it really that big of a deal? Yes, with the way it ended. But at the end of the day, I had a great time. I had a great 11 years, you know, started in 09, and I saw a lot of awesome things. I got to travel across the country, race in multiple different countries. And, you know, I got to be at the top of my class, and you couldn't ask for anything better than that. You know, if it ended where I just kind of was like struggle, and then ended, I'd be upset. But, you know, I'm just grateful to have the opportunities and build the relationships with, you know, JGR and WPS and Fly, that I can transition into something different. Yeah. And not be, you know, left where I'm like, crap, what am I going to do? You know, I didn't build a relationship with a brand that I can continue my career with and my life with. So that's what I'm happy to be able to be in this position that I'm in.
Yeah, it's a good transition when you can be done and get started right away. And again, when you have those relationships, that's how I mean, for me, my relationship with Feld and doing TV, that kind of started while I was still racing. There was that kind of like a lucky transition there, that I knew the right people at the right time, and I could make that move. So I understand what you're feeling too, is gratitude, having these relationships. Wes, I want to go back before your pro career, because I was a privateer 99% of my racing career. I know all about being a privateer, the struggles, financial, obviously, but even the emotional ones, just never knowing, like, do I really got a shot? Do I not?
Yeah.
Your path it's unique. It's, you know, the route. We both know the way to make it in the sport traditionally. That wasn't your path. Take us back to, I guess, those later amateur years when the path was looking like it was going to be a rough one for you. And then you put your head down, went to work, and made it happen. Just what was it like in those times when you knew that you were about to turn pro, but there really wasn't anything there to get started?
Yeah. So, you know, taking it back to that amateur state was, obviously I went to regular school. I went to high school, middle school, I did all that. And then, at that time in my life, I wasn't into school, man. I was about 9th grade, and I was playing football, and then I was just being an idiot. You know, you're a kid, you're young. And so I actually got expelled from school. And then my dad was like, what are you going to do now? Are you going to work for me? I'm like, not working for you. Like, I'm not, you know, that ain't my thing. I'm not a painter. It ain't going to happen. I always told him I'd rather work at McDonald's than work for you. Just because me and my dad he was always hard on me, but it was a good thing. I appreciate it now because it made me a better person. And I think that's why I was so successful, because my dad was hard on me, but at the same time supportive and would do anything for me. And obviously with my mom, my brother, my sister, and family, they all supported me. And so anyways, yeah, just that support crew, you know, really helped. But then, you know, going to the amateur stuff, like obviously out of school, and then I didn't know what I wanted to do, if I wanted to race work series, because I actually started off racing works like SRA Grand Prix and work series and all that. So I did that for about a year, and then I kept getting hurt. I kept hitting a bunch of trees, because it's like you try to ride it like a dirt bike track, and it's not that way. You know, you
can't lean into them. Yeah. Can't lean into all those corners.
No, I can't even count how many trees I've hit, and you know, just tear up bikes. And then my dad's like, well, that's not going to work. So what do you want to do next? So then the whole amateur thing for me started off was, I think, about 06, 07. And, you know, I just, same thing, bought our own bikes, had minimal support deals from sponsors and this and that. And I kind of worked my way up. And about, I think it was 2008, I did Loretta's. I won Loretta's. I was on a Yamaha support deal as an amateur. I did well, won Loretta's. I won some other titles in Vegas. You know, I didn't do Ponca that year, but just kind of doing good. And then it kind of put me into a spot where, like, I was expecting a ride out of that, you know, for the next year, for 2009. And I won Loretta's, and then that next year, I actually got dropped from Yamaha, and I was like, okay, well, this is kind of interesting. You know,
you're thinking it's going the other direction, not that way.
Yeah, you think you're set. You know, I won a championship. You know, I represent the company good. I'm doing everything I can. And at that time, it was all actually through Rock River. So I you know, made a relationship through Rock River Yamaha up in Wisconsin. And so all that happened. It all happened so quick. And then coming into 2009, I believe, is I had nothing. So my dad was like, again, what do you want to do? You know, we're not going to race amateurs and waste our money, because at that point he was already spending way too much money and you know, losing money, and then that was right around the housing market. Everything crashed and all that stuff, so it was tight. So then we actually went and bought 2 brand new Honda 450s, and then I showed up to Glen Helen and raced Glen Helen, and you know, it's kind of crazy how that all happened, but it was like I raced for Wonder Warthog. I think it was Daryl and Scott. They kind of put me on that program for Glen Helen, and then like I'm just sitting there talking, and there was an agent there that was working with them at the time for sponsors, and I can't remember her name. She was I think from Britain or something like that, and she's like, Daryl's talking her ear off, like saying, "Oh, Weston's the next guy. He's gonna kill it. He's gonna do good." And then so we ended up having to talk to her. She goes like, she tells me, I never forget this. She goes, "If you top 10 Glen Helen, I'll get you a ride on Motor Concepts." You know, I was like, no way, I don't believe you. Like, that's not even going to happen. And so come find out, I ended up getting 9th at Glen Helen. Next week.
Remember that?
I'm racing for Motor Concepts. Yeah. So just, you know, so many crazy things that have happened in my career with amateur, no support, back to buying my own bikes, and then this and that, and then that happens. And then, you know, I was grateful for that opportunity, you know, because if it wasn't for Motor Concepts, I don't even know if I would have continued racing, because I didn't have money to race the whole series of outdoors. And then we all know how expensive that is, and you know, parts, bikes, this, that, you know, your stuff just doesn't last. And so then I signed with Motor Concepts for the year. It was an up and down year. I had good results, bad results, you know, a lot of bad results from bikes breaking, and you know, just me learning the circuit and not knowing what's going on. And then kind of jumped from that. I was hoping I was going to stay with them for the next year. Then that fell apart, and then I went back to stage 1 again, where I was just like, dang, this keeps happening, where it's like you're build, and then get, you know, shut down. And then thankfully what happened was Rock River, Mike Duclos, he actually called my dad, and we were talking, and he's like, I want to start a team. So then it came into play like real quick, where he bought a semi, and it was all driven to my house in California. And then me and my dad were literally getting every sponsor put together for this team to go racing outdoors. So
I knew you rode for them. I didn't know that was their start too. So that, okay.
That whole team was pretty much started off with me and my dad.
Wow. Okay.
Might hear different stories from other people, but that semi showed up to my house in California, just wrecked. The trailer was a wreck. The truck was a wreck. You know, me and my dad spent days and days and days cleaning that trailer up, you know, the inside, getting it, you know, stocked and getting sponsors on board and all that stuff. So that was mine and my dad's start, obviously with the help of Duclos and a bunch of other people that helped out. And then, you know, I kind of raced on that team for, I think it was all of 2011 and part of 2012. And then, you know, it was one of those things where it just kind of wasn't working out for me. And then I kind of kept moving on through my career. And then I went full privateer again under Ted Parks, because then that's when work was out. Ted Parks picked up. So then I was traveling the circuit with Warthog, you know, with TPJ at that time. And then, you know, it was back to the grind of 2012, 13, 14, just back to the privateer program, you know, at the races. I'd fly in early. If my dad couldn't make it, I'd be at the races on Friday night, putting new top ends in my bike by myself, and just kind of, you know, all the stuff that, you know, people would have never guessed. But I mean, I had no other choice, because if I wanted to go race my dirt bike, I had to do it myself. You know what I mean? Me and my dad would be there till 10, 11 o'clock at the track on Friday night, you know, prepping the bike, doing top ends, doing tires and all that. So that's kind of like, that was like the true grit of, you know, where I always talk is like, people are like, oh, how'd you make it, or this or that. And I always go back to like privateers these days. Like, I just don't think they don't have what it takes to actually, you know, put their foot forward and and have that desire to actually, you know, race and be successful. And like a lot of them don't know what it takes because they don't have the effort and they don't have the heart.
It takes full sacrifice, right? You can't half sacrifice, 3/4 sacrifice. It's all in. I mean, for you to be doing your own bike work, that's proof right there. And then, well, how are you doing the next day? Like beating factory riders after doing a top end and doing probably a lot of clutches. I heard you were pretty brutal on clutches back then.
Yeah. My dad hated me on that. It was like I would smoke a clutch in practice. You know, first moto, you know, I'd go through 3 or 4 clutches a day, but that's just, you know, it's tough, you know, because you're doing it yourself. You're nervous. You're stressed out. You're like, you don't even know if you can make it the next weekend. And you know, I always remember it was funny. Like I didn't have any money at all. My dad ran out of money. He kind of cut me off around 2011 or 12 at that point. So it was like, I was literally at that time I was racing Supercross for Ted, and I was broke until I got paid from you know, Supercross. And
yeah, like a week later, the check would come in, and then that was probably gone immediately.
Exactly. You know, so I was always in the red. You know, I remember borrowing money a couple times, and it's one of those things where it's like, but I was at that point in my career where I was like, I knew I had it because I had a plan. You know, I had a game plan. I worked with Bill Toomey, which was like my mental coach to that time, and he always put me in a position where he's like, you know, really smart guy, really knowledgeable, and I'd always stay in contact with him through, you know, emails all the time, just back and forth, like keeping my head on my shoulders and just always having a plan. And that helped me out a lot, you know, just showing up every day at the practice track and knowing what you're going to do. Like, don't ever show up without a plan. You know, that's what he taught me. And that's what made me successful in my career too, was just, you know, making a plan, making goals. What do you want to do? What place are you going to get this weekend? Just little crap like, what position do you want to qualify and practice? Write it on your wrist so you can see it. You know, do this. What position do you want to get tonight? So it's always those things where you're constantly thinking about, you know, what the outcome is going to be, and that's what kind of built my structure in life was having a plan, and that's how I made it to where I did. And it's just a lot of, you know, so much stuff that goes into it. You know, where just a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, and just grind, man. It's insane to look back of like all the crap I went through to get to where I was at. And like you said, it's like showing up, build my own bikes, and I'm beating factory riders, you know, week in, week out. And you're like looking around at the pits, like, what is going on? Like, I'm beating him. These guys are getting paid, you know, good money. And I'm sitting here struggling in the pits. And when am I going to get that opportunity? And that was the hardest thing for me was beating those guys, you know, week in, week out. And then I'm still getting the crap end of the stick, you know?
Right. And then, I mean, again, it'd be one thing if you did that and then it didn't work out and then you just kind of quit and say over it, but you just kept coming back and beating him more and beating him more. And then boom, finally get the opportunity. And I guess my point would be most people probably wouldn't put up with the results you were getting and not getting much for that long. You know what I mean? Like a year or two of that. Okay. But man, 4 or 5 years of having those kind of results and not really getting the opportunity, most people would have given up by then, and you didn't, and then boom, you get your shot.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's one of those things where, like, trust me, I wanted to quit probably every single year from 10, 11, 12, 13. I was just like, what am I doing wrong? You know what I mean? Like, I got a podium in 2013, nothing the next year. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I can't do anything better with what I have. Like the bikes I had, the bikes
tapped out. I mean, you tapped out your program. It was
yeah, that's what it was. You know, just you tap it out and you can only do so much. And then, you know, obviously what really helped me was going into 2014 is when I started my own team. You know, we rented a show hauler, a hired staff. You know, we had a suspension guy, driver, mechanic, my dad. And so that, I think that was finally the turning curve where I was just like, I'm making a little bit of money now. And then fly racing came on and helped support my team in 2014, as well as Motorsport Hillsborough, Motorsport Inc. and Piston Bones. There was a ton of people that, you know, that helped me out to get to that next stage where I can actually have a rig and show up with a better bike, better product. I had more money to buy the proper motors. I had 8-kit suspension at this point. So, you know,
more clutches.
And way more clutches. Yeah, I think my cabinet's completely filled with clutches and stuff. But yeah, that was, you know, I think that was the turning point where, you know, I think in 2014 I was consistently, you know, top 8s, you know, top 5, 4th place, you know, Supercross here and there. So I put the I finally put it out there where I was like, look, if you could see what I have, the program I built with the bikes, like if I have just half of what I can get from a factory team, this is how much better I could do, you know. And then, yeah. But even at that, you know, racing all of 2014 Supercross, it was still a struggle. There was no talk. I mean, there was talk, but there was never like, hey, Weston, we want to sign you now, you know. So yeah. How that whole thing worked is I think I got to the last couple rounds of Supercross. I was in New Jersey, and I can't remember who it was. It was Kyle Bentley and someone else. They're like, hey, I think it was Brock or Hill got hurt on RCH, and they're like, we need you to race outdoors. So I was like, of course, like let's do it, you know. So I signed the deal that same day while I was racing in New York at that time, and I signed the deal, inked the deal, and then everything started playing, you know. Then my results got better, you know, better bike, better quality, you know, everything was taken care of. I could just show up to the races and race and not have to worry about putting motors in and you know, just having the thing is that you just have so much stress going on when you have your own team of like, okay, what's this going to cost to go from California all the way back east, the gas, this, that, you know, paying guys, can I afford it? Is there enough money in line to handle this? And because even at that year in 14, I don't even think I was going to race all the outdoor races because I didn't have enough money to, because it's just the whole Supercross circuit takes up so much money, just traveling back and forth on your own dime. It's not reasonable. And for the program I had, but then obviously, you know, RCH signed me, they took really good care of me, and I was stoked with that. And then, you know, kind of at that point I graduated on to, I signed my first JGR deal when I was at Unadilla. So that was, you know, my breaking point where I was like, I could take a deep breath and be like, crap, it finally happened. You know what I mean? I finally signed my complete year contract from start to finish. And, you know, it just shows like, then at that point, you know, it's like all the stress is gone. I mean, you still have stress, but it's like the stress of where am I going to get these bikes? Where am I going to get these parts? Do I have time, money? Like I was saying. And that just totally gave me a relief where I can go to North Carolina and show up, ride, and know my bike is going to be 100% day in, day out. And it paid off. You know what I mean? That was, you know, the start of my career, and it was an awesome start with that. But.
Man, like I said, just those challenges you go through, and most would have quit earlier. That's all I'm saying. Is most wouldn't go through it and then build their own. I mean, you were relentless, and I mean, I could only imagine that same mentality you're going to carry into your life now with the furniture store, with everything you're doing as a. I mean, you're a brand ambassador now. Is the same kind of mentality going to just carry over into the next life or into the next chapter? Because if that's the case, man, how many furniture stores are going to end up with when you're done? I can see a chain.
Yeah, no, I don't know, man. That's like, I'm 50-50 with that business. You know, it's a great business. It's you make a lot of money doing it, but
what's it called? What's your business called?
Lux Furniture, LUX Furniture. Yeah. So
nice.
we're building, man. We're a small store. We're a small location in Paris, California, and I wouldn't take it back, but I don't know if I want to grow it. You know, I mean, I'm at that point where it's like, I like it. I wouldn't say I enjoy it, but it's just like anything, you know, you got to move on. You got to think about the future. And that was kind of the decision I made. And long story short with that is I have a business partner in that, which is Jody. He's actually my neighbor. And it was one of those things where after my injury, it was about 2 months after my injury, about January, February, and he comes over to my house. He's like, you know, we're just kind of chit-chatting back and forth. He's like, what are you going to do with your life if you can't race? And I'm like, I don't know. It's early. I don't know if I'm going to heal, if my vision's going to come back. And it was just, it happened all so quick where it was like, well, he's like, I want to help you out. You know what I mean? Like, I want to get you set up because he owns a bunch of furniture businesses and stuff as well. So it kind of happened real quick where it was like, well, there's a spot open down the street. And he goes, you want to do it? And I go, well, sure. Let's do it. So we hopped on that real quick, and then we ended up signing our lease in what was that, January, May. We signed our lease, and then that's kind of it's been taken off from there. So it's been quite the journey between furniture business and now being a full-time brand ambassador for WPS and Fly. And it's I wouldn't take it back, but I don't think you're going to see multiple chains.
So no chain.
yeah, at least unless things start changing. But like I said, right now with the COVID stuff, it's changing manufacturers, and And now it's been a nightmare with the tariffs and everything we've been dealing with products. Companies are shutting down overseas and opening here. So now we're 2-3 months out from getting certain products we carry. And it's the same boat for everybody, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's just so stressful. And then the hardest thing that I have to deal with is just like the customer service of like making people happy. And then I'm not the kind of person that just like is like a yes, like a, oh yes.
Yeah. You don't come across as a yes man.
Yeah. I'm not a customer, like people person to like please a customer when it's like, even when they're wrong, they're right. Like, that's not how I roll. So like I actually, I had to learn the business. So at all last year from May, June, July. So about June, when we first kind of kicked off and had our little grand opening, like we were low staffed, we didn't have enough drivers. We didn't have enough sales employees. So I was actually working the floor, selling. And then at nighttime, me and my business partner, we would literally go deliver furniture at nighttime. So like I had to do it all, just because it's like, you can't just start a business and just tell everybody what to do if you've never done it.
Yeah. I have a buddy who's taking over his dad's trucking company, and his dad is making him work in every division of the company. He's in parts, he's in service, he's driving. His dad said, you can't tell people what to do if you have no idea how to do it. So he's going through like crazy, like multiple year boot camp before he takes it over. So I know what you're saying. You have to get in there and do all the dirty work before you come in there and start telling people what's up.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, and for me too, it's like I've never been a business person. I've owned businesses. I owned a vape shop for 5 years, and family owned business, me and my dad and whatnot. But we just sold that last year. But I never handled the business side of it because my dad did that. So with the store now, it's like this whole furniture store has been like a crazy learning curve for me, because like I didn't know business. I didn't know what I had to do. So I sat there and I learned myself. So now it's like, now with the help of me and one other person, like I pretty much run most of the business. I have my sales ladies that, that help order product and this and that, but all the behind the scenes stuff is pretty much taken care of by me. And it's a life-changing thing, to kind of take that on from racing professionally for 11 years. And then all of a sudden you're like, I actually have to sit down and do this paperwork and pay bills and a whole nother level of, we carry 25 different vendors. So it's like to have to keep up with all the product, what's in stock, what's not in stock. It's like, it's just something that's completely, different for me. But like I said, it's not one of those things where I think, I don't think you'll see me in that business for very long.
So long-term then, I guess, do you have thoughts and ideas of what you would want to do? Or are you more on a stage of, let me see what's going on, try some things, maybe kind of like a transition period where you're trying to figure out where you want to go for 10, 20, 30 years? Or do you have your eyes set on something like, this is where I want to get to, I want this? Are you there yet?
My cards are going more towards staying with WPS, because they're growing. The company is growing huge, and they're one of the biggest growing companies out here right now in this industry. And my biggest plan here is to kind of figure out my position. Obviously I'm doing the brand ambassador deal, and I'm also doing all the events and ride days with Bob and Damon. So like I have a schedule with that, with traveling, doing events, ride days, dealer days, and kind of stay busy with that as long as traveling to the Supercross races, because that's where our presence is at Supercross. And so that's kind of where my head's at. That's kind of where I want to be at, and have a long-term deal with this company and possibly retire with them. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at. That's where my head's going. So it's just, at this point, it's just trying to get in here. Like I said, I'm possibly going to move up to Boise. I'm just trying to get my head around it and just have, a couple meetings here and figure out, if I move here, I got to have something to do. I can't just move here and then, like do the brand ambassador deal, but not actually have another purpose. So I just need more to do. So that's kind of where I'm sitting at, is like figuring out which part of the brand I'm going to more or less give most of my time to.
Right. That makes sense. I'm gonna go back to racing for a second. Like Supercross fans, it's a mixed bunch. You've got your diehard fans that know everything about everybody. They're listening to this and they know, oh, I know everything about Weston. But then there's a lot of fans who watch the races, don't really know even how the riders' backgrounds are or how the sport works at an amateur level. One chapter of my life that I know you lived too, because we were at the same places a lot, was you know, these money races, these like fairgrounds type races or these pro-am races, you know, when you're a factory rider, you don't live that life really. It's pretty strict with what you do. During those years though, when you were, you know, later in the privateer life, when you were still chasing money races like I was, how cool was that chapter in its own way? I feel like some people don't get to live that, don't get to see that side. I always found those races to be fun. They were, I mean, you know, you're at the big races, then you go to these things and you're just like the top dog. Yeah. There was something different and unique about that style of racing that you got to do a lot, that a lot of people don't, and a lot of the fans of the sport don't even know existed or exist. So how was that chapter for you, just going to those races? You know, these one-offs that are all over the place, I mean, all around the world, but specifically the ones here in the country.
Yeah. I mean, back to that, I enjoyed that part of my career. It was like I had a Ford van, and I literally would just load all my dirt bikes in the van, and I would just go travel to, you know, Oregon, Washington, you know, Northern California, and just literally just race and chase money. Like that's what my plan was I knew I could afford to race Supercross because I got paid enough money purse wise to skip most of the outdoors. So I would go like you, I think I raced you up in Washington numerous times. And
PIR a couple times, like 7 or 8 of them I think we did together.
Yeah, I remember one time all the local guys got pissed off at me because I came up there one year and cleaned house on, I think it was like 3 or 4 races. We did Mountain View, PIR, that one race at that open fairgrounds that they just kind of built, and no, so that's all just good times, man. Like I enjoyed that. You know, there's no stress. You show up, you ride, you race, you have a good time, and there's no big time pressure. And you know, at the end of the day, you're gonna make decent money doing it. And you know, I like doing that. And even earlier in my career, you know, when I was obviously in 2010, 11, and all that, I was flying to Greece, Finland, Germany, and I was racing that whole circuit. So that's what I had to race those races to pay for bikes and parts to race next year. So that was kind of like my bread and butter. I made way more money doing that than I did, you know, racing as a privateer in the States. So, you know, I had to just make those choices and I missed a lot of outdoor races in my earlier careers of being a privateer to be able to race the money races where I actually knew I'd make, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 grand versus making $500-600 at an outdoor race, you know, getting, you know, top 20. So, you know, there was a lot of things, but, you know, I mean, it was awesome. And I wished as a pro rider, when I turned factory, that I could actually still race local races. But then you got to think, you're like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to, you know, when the guys are grinding, you know, they're privateer, they need that money more than I do. So I turned down a lot of those events because it was like, I don't need the money now. So I don't want to take these guys' monies that were in my position that are grinding week in, week out to try to make that extra money. So, but yeah.
You know how you said you're frustrated that you weren't getting a factory ride? Mm-hmm. We all were too.
Yeah.
We didn't need you showing up at those races. We were like, dude, this guy should be on a factory team, but he's showing up and taking all the money. So as frustrated as you were, we were pissed too.
Yeah.
You need to get out of there.
I know. That's all I was saying. I remember that one race. I can't remember what it was. It was like green something.
It was a night race. And it had a sketchy jump on the one side, right?
It was a squirrely track. I'm trying to think of what it was called, like green something. And I just remember, like, when I was driving out of there after I collected my money, like, there was a bunch of people that were just like, who the hell is this guy? Freaking comes up here and cleans house and takes all of our money. And it was, I kind of remember that. I remember parts of those times where all the local boys were kind of upset that I came through and cleaned house. But, you know, it's good.
Yeah, hey, it's what you needed to do, though, to get over the hump. Like I said, part of getting over the hump from privateer to factory is you need to fund your own program. And if that's what you got to do to fund it, it's what you got to do. So we don't hold it against you now. At the time, maybe a little bit, but how's married life?
It's all right, man. It's different. You know, you kind of got to change your ways a little bit, and you know, kind of learn it and you know, figure it out. It's all a learning experience, man. It's just like starting a new business or something like that. You know, you got to just transition into you know, considering another person more than, you know, what you did. And it's just, you know, just figuring it out. So that's what we're going through right now, and just trying to work on things and just, you know, be people pretty much. So.
And travel is always wild with that too. Like, just I mean, like you said, the lifestyle is so fast, and then it kind of slows down for you now at times when you're in California, but then you get to go out again a little bit. So that inconsistency I know is tough too, just on the traveling side. But I mean, I still go through that where half the year it's wide open, half the year it's home every day. And those are two different lifestyles. I'm a different husband at different times.
Yeah, and then when you're home, they're sick of seeing you because you're home too much. And it's just like,
dude,
again, and then you leave, and then they're like, where are you at?
Hey, a week into the season, you need to be home more. A week after the season, you need to get out of here. It's never good enough, right?
There's no making them happy, I guess.
There's like a 1 week period where my wife's really happy, and that's about it. How about last question? You still shredding on the bike? I mean, when you get on it, is it all still good? Because for me, it's gone.
Yeah.
Talent's gone, skill's gone, the body, everything's gone. It's been 5 years for me. You still shredding?
I could shred for about 2 laps. That's kind of since I'm not racing anymore. I kind of transitioned to like, I don't want to look at a road bike anymore, so I don't want to be lean. So like, I've just kind of switched over to just, I like to lift a little bit of weight now because I've never been able to do that. So now, but that puts a damper on when I ride now because now I'm super stiff. I can't do more than 2 laps. I got to get a solid warm up in, and then I can kind of get a little bit more loosened up. But I mean, I can still shred. I can still hang with a couple guys for a few laps. But it's one of those things too where it's like if you're riding all the time, you can stay relevant and consistent. But it's just like anything, man. You gotta be persistent and if you want something, you got to keep doing it. So
I'll sneak in a one last question. How is it hanging and riding with the beast from the East, Damon Bradshaw?
Oh, dude, he's actually fast. Like, I'm not joking. We were at Paris at our road recovery ride day about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And I kind of got in behind him and I'm like, what's going on? Like I wasn't catching him as fast as I could. And I was like, this dude rips. Like he still goes pretty darn fast for how old he is. I think he's almost 60, right?
Oh, dude. I don't think he's that old.
No, I like to give him a good time. But yeah, he's a good dude to ride with. Cause like, and then when you get in riding with him, he knows how to ride, we go back and forth and, he goes outside, I go inside and he knows where I'm at, so it's always good to ride with, a veteran like that knows how to ride still and actually go fast. So he moves, man. I even remember like we did a ride day or we did a gear launch up here about 2 years ago in Boise. And at that time I never met Bradshaw and I'm out there on my 450 and there's this dude on a gas 2-stroke in front of me. And I'm like looking and I'm like, I'm not gaining on this dude. And he's ripping this 2-stroke. And I'm like, who is this? And I finally catch him and pass him. And he gave me a good run for my money on that. And then when we came back, I was like, oh, that's Bradshaw. Yeah.
That's Damon Bradshaw. Not many could hop on one of those and shred. Again, probably caught you off guard a little bit. And then once you saw it was him, you're like, yep, seen this style before. I know what this guy did.
And I think even that makes it worse. I think it was an off-road edition 2-stroke where he might have had a headlight on it too. So I was like, yeah, nobody saw that, hopefully.
Hey, Weston, man, I appreciate you coming on. Again, I look forward to doing this with you. Your story is inspiring, and I'm really happy for you. I know this transition's an interesting part of your life. I'm glad it's going well, and thanks again for joining us on Beyond the Track.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it, guys. Thank you for having me on.
I'll see you soon, man.
See you guys.